You know what time it is. Time for another video about Magic the Gathering, a game I love with a passion, made by a company I hate passionately. Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and you guys know what draft is. You know, limited, arguably the most famous way to play the game, Magic the Gathering. Well, apparently players are so dumb, they want limited to be ended entirely. Let's take a look at this article from MTG Rocks, a complete shill website, while I also throw some figures and numbers at you from Amazon. Let's get into it, shall we? MTG players want to get rid of draft boosters. Now, for those of you that don't know what it means, you're just watching this video because you love my ugly mug. First of all, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. You could have chosen a whole lot more handsome people to listen to, but I appreciate it nonetheless. But what draft boosters are, they're a type of pack of Magic cards made for what's called drafting, where basically you take several sets, several packs of cards with several of your friends, and you all open them and then pass them around one card at a time till everyone has built a complete deck. And it's a very, very common way to play the game. In fact, that's how the game really originated, and now people who've been playing this game for probably not near long enough are wanting to get rid of it, despite the fact that it is a staple in the Magic community. Initially used to playtest Magic the Gathering before release, Limited Draft is perhaps the oldest MTG format in existence, providing the go-to way to experience a new set. Limited has persisted in Magic for 30 years now. Throughout that time, Limited formats have undergone a number of changes and evolutions. However, the core product has always remained. That's right, 30 years of tradition, and some people just want to flush it down the toilet because they don't like how it's being handled with one of the new sets. Oh, okay guys, there's a lot of problems in Magic. In fact, I made plenty of videos calling out wotc because they're a garbage company. We got bigger fish to fry than you not liking the oldest way to play the game in the book. Alongside being steeped in history, limited events are also an incredibly popular way to play MTG. As a result of this, the limited environment is often first and foremost in developers' minds for creating a set. Yeah, maybe that used to be the case. That hasn't been the case for half a decade now. Commander takes front and center. I mean, I played in several of the new Lord of the Rings draft events, and let me tell you, those cards clearly designed for Commander. They are no fun to draft, and I don't know how people are having fun with this. It literally is not made for that, and you can tell. They need to stop prioritizing casual Commander when creating these sets, but that's just my opinion. Still, allowing room for Commander-focused all-stars and constructed bombs, this approach has worked for literal decades. Despite all the successful history, recently it seems some MTG players are tired of limited formats. So much so, in fact, that following initial spoilers for Commander Masters, a set that should not even exist, some players want Wizards to remove the beloved format altogether. Commander, not so Masters. Yes, so they are coming out with a new set booster called Commander Masters, which is going to prioritize Commander. It's going to do a bunch of reprints for cards that are popular in a casual format called Commander. So you might be wondering, why is this a big deal? Well, let me tell you, because casual play like Commander and Limited go together like oil and water. They are fundamentally, effectively different games, just played with the same type of Magic cards. I mean, one is a purely competitive 1v1 format, while the other is so casual you play it with 4 to 6 friends at a time. The philosophy of the card design is so inherently different that they just do not mesh. You cannot really draft and play limited drafting sets with cards made for Commander. The decks are just not good. They're boring, they don't work, yet for some reason, Wizards of the Coast decided they want to be able to make this upcoming Commander Masters set limited, draftable, which, I get it, they do that for every set, but maybe don't do it for a set that doesn't take drafting into consideration, that is not made for drafting. So while I do get why players don't want drafting to be done for this set, getting rid of it altogether, which is what some people are calling for, makes no sense. In case you missed the recent weekly MTG yesterday, Wizards officially debuted Commander Masters, kicking off the set's spoiler season with some awesome, gorgeous, and spicy reprints. Spoiler alert, no, almost all this stuff does not need reprinted. It's garbage. People are asking for it because they don't know what they actually want, what they actually need. But let me tell you, even if some of these are necessary, for the price they're charging, it's not necessary. We'll get to that in a second when I show you guys some price comparisons. It's going to be more fun than you realize. We're dealing with some pretty high dollar amounts. It's going to make you go, why did people pay this much for cardboard? MTG players already have a lot to be excited about. After all, who wouldn't want to crack a pack and find a $70 Jewel Lotus inside? That sounds pretty amazing until you realize these packs are 20 bucks a pop. You're spending $20 for a very, very small chance at a $70 card, but with a lot more crap in between. Unfortunately, while there have been plenty of expensive cards spoiled already, not every Commander Masters card is tremendously expensive. Omnath, Locus of Mana, which is this card right here, for instance, is hardly the most expensive or popular MTG card in Commander, costing around $7. Omnath, Locus of Mana is admittedly far from a complete flop, however. It's nothing compared to a $120 Capture of Jingzhou, which is this card right here. Alongside Mythic Commander Master cards already being a mixed bunch, the set also contains plenty of less than stellar editions. Just look at Yargle, Glutton of Urborg, which is this card right here. Guess how much this card costs, guys? Well, let me tell you. For an example of that, available for as little as $3 cents. That's right, they are charging you $20 for a single pack that's going to potentially have a card in it that is worth 3 cents. Not exactly worth it if you ask me. I don't want to roll those dice. This beloved legendary is fun, but hardly a needed reprint. On the surface, this may seem to make Yargle a rather useless inclusion in Commander Masters. After all, surely the whole point of this set is to reprint beloved Commander cards which are prohibitively expensive, right? Unfortunately, for value-hungry MTG players, that assessment is only half correct. And this is a quote from the head designer at Magic the Gathering, Mark Bongwater. The two big things you have to do in a Masters product is pick reprints that players want and make fun for limited environment. Now, limited, again, is drafting, what I explained earlier. The thing is, Masters products are usually fine for drafting because they're still meant for competitive one-on-one. They're just reprinting old competitive one-on-one cards. But a Commander Masters, which is the first time they're really doing a Commander Masters, if you technically the second, but we're not going to get into the minutia of it all. Point is, they've never done a Commander Masters before, which is not a set that's not a format you draft, so they don't need to try and make it fun for a limited environment. I do get the argument that, hey, we shouldn't be drafting this. You shouldn't be looking at drafting as a design philosophy for this because the two don't work with one another, but people take it too far. As you can see above, when speaking in a recent article about the set's design philosophy, MTG's lead designer revealed Commander Masters isn't all about reprints. Instead, somewhat unsurprisingly, the set was also built around limited. Now, here's the thing. These are what's called supplemental sets. Throughout the course of a year, you've got a few main sets, and then you've got supplemental sets in between that are not really seen at tournament play. They're not tournament legal, things like that. Or if they are tournament legal, so the cards might be individually, but the set is not drafted in tournament play. I know there's a lot of stuff that if you don't play Magic doesn't make sense, but the point is, they're supplemental. It means they're extra, so you're not going to see them drafted at tournaments. However, the new Lord of the Rings set is the very first, to my knowledge, drafted at a tournament that is effectively supplemental. So it is possibly starting to change, but that shouldn't be the go-to when Magic has been around for over 30 years and this is a first-time thing, and we're definitely not going to see this drafted at tournaments because Commander is not a tournament legal format. In fact, in order to make limited environment as interesting as possible, Wizards is shaking up the format's rules. In theory, this should make the set thoroughly enjoyable for all manner of MTG players. But down with the draft, up with the reprints. Considering limited draft events have been around and enjoyed by MTG players for literal decades, this focus may seem like a very good thing. After all, despite some recent wonky balancing, draft is a typically much loved way to play the game. It's also nothing out of the ordinary for Master sets to be built around this format. Again, because Master sets traditionally have focused on 1v1, not casual group play. So it should be business as usual. Technically, this is all true. However, for Commander Masters, it seems some MTG players have had enough. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to throw some numbers at you guys. We're going to talk about some pricing, because Commander is technically the most commonly played form of Magic nowadays. That's a very recent development in the grand scheme of the game's history, but even so, it is true. And as such, Wizards of the Coast has been designing cards almost exclusively for Commander, even though they're putting it in 1v1 tournament legal cards. Now, the new Commander Masters set is, hold on, almost $400. That's right, you get 24 packs of cards for $400. Now, you think that's absurd? Yeah, it absolutely is. Boxes like this, usually about 120, 150. On the high end, when there's some premium stuff, about 250. This is almost $400 because they know, oh, Commander is so popular and we're reprinting some old cards that I haven't seen reprints in a while. They know that you're just going to eat it up. They're just going to gobble, 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 buy it. Oh, it's going to be so great for them. They say, Magic the Gathering, Wizards of the Coast, they claim do not take the secondary market into account. The secondary market is when, like, comic book stores, card stores, they resell individual cards. Like, oh, this one card is worth $50. Magic the Gathering claims they don't take the secondary market into account, when in all reality, they absolutely do. They can't sell these for cheap, because if they do, the secondary market will crash. This card that was once $50, well, now you have a chance of pulling it for, let's say the booster packs for $3 instead of $20. If you can get this $50 card by chance out of a $3 booster pack, all of a sudden that $50 card not worth $50 anymore. It's worth like 7, maybe 50 cents, who knows. It drives the price way down. So the way to counterbalance that is to make these cards, these booster packs, so absurdly expensive that even if people do pull them, their value stays high because you had to pay so much money to pull them. Now, if we want to compare this to something that's happened before, we'll take a look at what right here. It's called Ultimate Masters. Now, Ultimate Masters is selling for $530 now. This is not the price it was when it dropped, just so you know. It's selling for $530 because this is an old sort of Masters collectible edition that is harder to find now. But when it did drop, it was $335, which is still technically cheaper than this Commander set that we're getting. However, $335 was still so outrageously expensive, people threw a fit talking about how Wizards of of the Coast was just milking them and milking them, saying that, oh my goodness, oh yeah, guess what? You're reprinting a bunch of old cards. That doesn't justify $335 for 25 packs of some cardboard. It is absolutely highway robbery. But guess what? People still bought it because they wanted those cards. They wanted the reprints because the regular versions that were, sitting in the comic book stores that were singles were so expensive to buy. So they're willing to take that gamble with their $335. You keep enabling this, Magic players, by going out and still supporting booster boxes like this. You gotta be more like your boy Leon and not actually pay for sealed product because it's an absolute scam. You want to prove it's a scam? Let's take a look right here at the, I'm sorry, this is the wrong one. Here we go. Let's take a look right here at the Magic the Gathering Double Master set. Now, this is a premium set of draft boosters. These are made for the 1v1. Now, these are going for $300. Once again, this is an older set. It came out in 2022, so this is actually probably marked up a bit because it's not in print anymore. So even though, I don't remember how much it cost when it first came out, but it certainly wasn't $280. Probably somewhere between $150 and $250. And then, on top of that, you've got the, the Magic Gathering Masters 25, which is selling for $207 for a box. Again, this is out of print. This has been out of print, but it's only selling for $200. You also have the Lord of the Rings, the most recent box set. Lord of the Rings, one of the most famous IPs in the world. Its box going for $170. Now, a lot of you might think, well, that's still way too expensive for cardboard. And you know what? Fair enough. If Magic's not your thing, it's not your thing. But $170 compared to $380. In fact, in Canada, it's like $600, which is insane. But you know what? I'm kind of glad about that. I don't like the Canadians having nice things. But yeah, $170 for the most recent set, $400 effectively for the upcoming set. That is highway robbery that frankly is a-okay because fans will pay for this. You are morons if you do this. But back to the article, because it's really about, people calling for getting rid of limited. I just want to throw some numbers out there to say, hey, Magic the Gathering people, stop acting like drug addicts. After reading Mark Rosewater's recent article, the Realm 90 took to Reddit to critique the supposed need for limited, asserting that master sets are the best example of the one time you really don't have to make a fun limited format. And I would normally agree, except for master sets are traditionally for limited because they are reprints of cards you use in a 1v1 setting. Now, if he was to say this Commander set, this Commander Masters, you don't need for a fun limited environment, I would absolutely agree because the Commander cards are not designed for drafting. They're not designed for 1 versus 1 competitive play. If he had just changed his sentence just a little bit, I would agree. But, master sets in general, they're supplemental to the idea of playing competitively, so it would make sense that they should be drafted. The Realm 90 went on to propose the removal of draft boosters from MTG altogether. Yeah, he wants to remove them altogether. This legacy, the way the game has been played in a tournament format for 30 years, he thinks, no, it's not good enough anymore, which is ridiculous. There's a reason this game has been around for 30 years. Granted, the last 10 or so, it's been awful because Wizards of the Coast is a garbage company. But regardless, it still has been around for 30 years. They must be doing something right when it comes to the draft boosters. While this may seem like an utterly wild proposal, it's not entirely ridiculous. After all, the sole focus of master sets should be on needed reprints and bringing prices down. What company wants prices brought down? That makes no sense in terms of making money. Now, I want prices brought down, don't get me wrong, because I think that, like I was saying earlier, $400 is highway robbery. That being said, if you keep purchasing this stuff, then of course the prices are going to go up because they know you're going to buy it anyway. So do you want to know how you bring the prices down? You don't buy these shitty cash grab products that are supplemental anyway. This set doesn't need to exist. They're putting it out there in a non-competitive format because they know you're so dumb you will buy it anyway. So you don't need to tell us what the sole focus of master sets are when you guys are the people that keep buying them anyway. Unlike your boy, which hasn't bought sealed product in, 2.5 years? Something like that. Following this dramatic statement, numerous other MTG players furthered the Realm 90 suggestion. Players such as Ask Dr. Bear, for instance, claim Wizards was using limited as a scapegoat for their own unwillingness to cram more reprint equity into a premium set. Well, this really isn't a premium set. I mean, you can take their word that it's a premium set, but in all reality, this set doesn't need to exist. If you really want some reprints like this, fine, fair enough, but there should be no reason that this is a premium $400 set. Calling using limited as a scapegoat makes no sense because what probably happens is limited has been something they've been doing for 30 years. So when they're designing these sets and saying, hey, here's our flow chart of how to make sets, why would they design an entirely new flowchart for a one-off supplemental product? It makes sense just to follow the existing flowchart they've had for years upon years, rather than making an entirely new one as a one-off, which will take so much more time, resources, could arguably make the set cost even more. No, Limited is not a scapegoat. It's just a business being a business, using the proper models they already have in place, and you being too dumb that you will still pay for the product. Similarly, Reality Palettes allege Wizards tightly controls the reprint equity, only including enough valuable cards to make a set sell. Now, that is absolutely true, but also, that's how all collectible outlets work. Like, anything that is collectible, whether it be a collectible version of a video game with a special steelbook case, whether it be random limited edition pop vinyls, whether it be action figures in their original packaging that are like got some sort of special event correlating to them. So this is what Wizards is doing, but is it wrong for them to do it when all these other companies are doing it? That's what makes stuff collectible. So I really don't see a problem here if you are a collector. Judging by these claims, it seems that for Master products, draft really does need to go, as it gets in the way of reprints. No. Masters products, draft does not need to go away. You could say in Commander Masters, it needs to go away. Yes, absolutely. That would be fine, because Commander Masters should not be draftable in the first place, since you don't draft Commander. That being said, just to say for Masters products in general, which are almost always for a competitive format, yes, you do want them to be draftable. It makes perfect sense with how the game was created. So no, just add the word Commander in front of this and you might have an argument. But instead, you want to just echo this ridiculous mentality that's on, Reddit of all places. Yeah, because Reddit's known for being a bastion of fantastic, healthy thought. Unfortunately, however, this may just cause other problems. If a set was chock-a-block with $50 reprints, Wizards could charge out the nose for it. Well, they already are. I already showed you guys. They're charging out the nose for it. $400. In fact, they're already doing this for Commander Masters. Well, at least they admit it. Thanks to this, as I'm Nemo points out, it may rather be hard to enjoy the supposedly enjoyable limited environment. Business as usual. Unfortunately, for the disgruntled MTG players wanting more of a focus on reprints, it's highly likely that Limited isn't going anywhere in Master sets, which is good. It shouldn't. They just not do Master sets for casual formats. Admittedly, Wizards of the Coast hasn't made a statement confirming this, but it would be foolish to discount Limited's popularity. Regardless of whether a product is a Premier or Master set, Limited sells boosters and boxes in droves. There's a reason why Wizards has been focusing on Limited for decades, after all. Again, minus the last 5 to 7 years where they've been focusing almost exclusively on Commander. Ultimately, while disgruntled suggestions like this may come from a place of love, it's important to remember that MTG is an absolutely massive audience. Even discounting the purely casual players who don't know what a Planeswalker is, there's nobody playing Magic the Gathering nowadays that does not know what a Planeswalker is. Not every MTG fan is actively on Reddit. Well, thank God for that. As a result, posts like these can often turn into an echo chamber where one idea is promoted to the top. In reality, there are undoubtedly countless MTG players who deeply enjoy limited events and don't want them to go anywhere. Luckily, for the more casual players, there's no indication Wizards will be eradicating Limited to focus on reprints. That being said, however, Limited as we know it may be about to go through some changes. Following a recent complaint about the somewhat confusing identity of draft boosters in MTG on Blogatog, Mark Rosewater revealed it's an issue we're working on. There shouldn't be any confusion about draft boosters, by the way. It's in the name. They are draft boosters. They are booster packs meant for drafting. Yes, there's also set boosters and collector boosters, but if the name is draft boosters and there's a type of gameplay called drafting, I would think that somebody that's got more than 2.5 brain cells would know, yes, the draft boosters are for drafting. From this statement, it seems it might not be long before Magic undergoes some rebranding to hopefully mitigate confusion surrounding the myriad of MTG boosters available. That's one possibility, at least. Ultimately, we won't know what Wizards has up their sleeves until more information is revealed. We do know what Wizards has up their sleeves. They're more worried about making sure that the new Baldur's Gate game gives you the ability to fuck a bear than they care about putting their hard work and effort into Magic the Gathering. That's what's going on. Subsequently, for now, we'll just have to sit tight and wait patiently. No. What you need to be doing is getting on the internet and throwing a fit and getting wotc to change their ways, and maybe more importantly than that, you need to stop buying these products. I gotta tell you guys, I'm so flippin' tired of people who play Magic the Gathering asking for the wrong things on the internet. wotc makes a decision and all of a sudden they throw a fit about it. Well, you know what? You were asking for stuff like this. You were asking, hey, we need more reprints. wotc decides to give you more reprints, but does so in a way that you don't like. You shouldn't have been asking for more reprints to begin with, at least not for something that is a casual format. Just go out and buy the cards at, third party from your local game shop. What? They're too expensive? Well, maybe just don't play Magic then. this is a collector's hobby. If you're throwing a fit that a card is too expensive and they decide to reprint it, but they're reprinting it in booster sets that are $400, then you kind of ask for this to happen yourself, because guess what? They get to decide what they want to sell it for. So just don't buy it. Teach them a lesson. Vote with your wallet. But those are just my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments below, or let me know on Twitter where you can find me at BoltTheWord. And please just subscribe. I am a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day. Not always about Magic the Gathering, but also about anime, video games, movies, you name it. It's all here in the nerdosphere. And this has been Words of Paradise.